right now, somewhere. You're avoiding something, a notification you won't open until later, a dessert you told yourself you wouldn't eat, a message you know you shouldn't send but might. You call this willpower. The ancient Greeks had a very different idea, and it starts with a man tied to a mast, screaming to be let free. In Homer's Odyssey, Odysseus is warned about the Sirens, creatures whose song is so beautiful that no sailor who hears it can resist steering toward them straight into the rocks that will kill him. Every version of the story agrees on one thing: their song cannot be resisted through strength of will. It can only be survived through preparation made before the temptation ever arrives. So Odysseus does something strange. He doesn't trust himself. He orders his men to fill their own ears with beeswax so they cannot hear the song at all. Then he has them tie him to the mast of the ship, hands and feet bound, with strict orders. No matter what he says, no matter how he begs, they are not to untie him until the danger has passed. Odysseus, famous for his cleverness, does not try to outthink the temptation. He removes his own ability to act on it. This is not a myth about resisting desire. It is a myth about knowing you can't. Here's where it gets interesting. Modern psychology has a name for exactly what Odysseus did, nearly 3,000 years before the term existed. Economist Thomas Schelling, who studied the science of self-control and commitment, described this exact strategy as binding yourself in the present to protect your future self from a decision you know you'll want to make, but shouldn't. Psychologists now simply call it pre-commitment, and it turns out to be one of the most effective tools humans have ever discovered for managing desire. Think about why this matters. Most people assume self-control is a kind of internal muscle, something you flex in the moment of temptation, gritting your teeth until the craving passes. But psychologist Roy Baumeister, known for his research on willpower and self-regulation, found something uncomfortable. Willpower behaves less like a muscle you can flex on command and more like a battery that drains with use. The more decisions you make resisting temptation throughout a day, the weaker your resistance becomes by evening. This is part of why the same person who effortlessly skips dessert at lunch can find themselves elbow deep in a bag of chips by midnight. Odysseus seemed to understand this instinctively. He didn't wait to feel strong in the moment the siren's song began. By then, he knew it would already be too late. So he made the decision once, ahead of time, while his mind was still clear, and then physically removed his own ability to reverse it. This is the twist almost nobody notices in the story. Odysseus does not ask to be freed from temptation. He asks to experience it fully, screaming, straining against the ropes, hearing every note of the song that would have killed him. He wanted the experience. He simply didn't trust the version of himself that would exist in the middle of it to make the decision safely. He built a structure that let a wiser, calmer version of himself, the one making plans before the danger arrived, override a more desperate version of himself that hadn't been born yet. That distinction changes what this myth is actually about. It isn't about avoiding temptation. It's about recognizing that the person deciding whether to give in and the person who set the rule in advance are not the same person at all. Behavioral economists now describe this using a concept sometimes called the planner and the doer. The calm version of you making a plan on Sunday night is not the same version of you facing a plate of food at 11 p.m. on Tuesday. Odysseus built his mast and his ropes for exactly that gap. You do this too, more than you might realize. Leaving your wallet at home so you can't make an impulse purchase. Deleting an app the night before a deadline. Asking a friend to hide the cake. Every one of these is a small, modern version of tying yourself to a mast. Not because you're weak, because you understand, the same way Odysseus did, that willpower in the moment is far less reliable than a decision made ahead of it. Here's the part of the story people usually miss entirely. Odysseus survives the Sirens not because he was braver than other sailors, or purer of heart, or more disciplined in the moment. He survives because he assumed correctly that he would fail if left to decide freely once the song began. That single assumption that his future self could not be trusted is what saved his life. So the next time you find yourself bargaining with a version of yourself you know isn't thinking clearly, staring at a notification you shouldn't open, a decision you know you'll regret by morning, remember the mast. Remember the ropes. Remember that the strongest person in that story wasn't the one who resisted the song. It was the one who knew, long before he ever heard it, that he wouldn't be able to.